Okay, let me see if I can explain this to you. This is pan decking, concrete decking. It comes in a certain amount of length. You can cut it back to 6 foot, let's call it. It would be the concrete deck would be on top of here. The existing concrete deck would be on top. On top of here. That goes underneath of it. You support it by this existing wall, by through bolts or a column system. But if you can get away with a ledger system, it would be the most economical at the wall. Most economical at the wall, a ledger system. Now you're using existing foundation to hold the deck, which it was already holding. So there's shouldn't be a question about whether that foundation should take it. Out here is where you're going to figure out the loads on the entire 6 feet. This will now be the structural steel, if you will, no longer dependent on the steel in the existing slabs. The structural decking will be what takes over the load. So part of it will be ledgered, and out here it will be beamed, steel beamed, and then column to column. I'm just using this concrete for your example. You'd have a column under here, steel beam, column, all based on the soil conditions on the loading you can take with what is expected loading of the 6 feet span roughly. Again, this is just showing a ledger like this. This is heck, you might even be going. You can't go into the wall because your slabs come from the wall out. So you can ledger it. Worst case, you will have to do a beam and column again. But I think ledgering should work because it's already existing there. Again, the structural part will be the decking. Will transfer to the pan decking. This is unsupported, and I'm walking on it, and the ribs are how it gets its strength. The rib design, also the steel gauging. You can see a couple of holes here to allow water to go through, as I talked to you about. But you might want to put some holes in the decking to allow some weep holes just in case. And then with a vinyl material on top, make a beautiful deck after you do all the patch repairs. The repairs can be done so easily because now this becomes the structural supports that will stay. So is the outside steel stay. So there's no redundant payment of supporting. This one support, also structural. Now your workers can get up here. They can drill through your deck, see the rebar, treat the rebar like a real repair. So clean it up really, wire brush it, put the epoxy on it, put whatever it needs on it to bring it back up to a standard structural repair. Fill a hole in. Remember, this is structural. So even if it's not a pretty hole, that's not the issue anymore because you're going to now use that as your base. And this is the structural. Again, this is the structural part of the entire system, going all the way around, staying permanently. Profile will be determined by your loads and the span that's expected. And the load would include, we would count the dead load of the deck now, pretending like the deck just fails in the future. It becomes a dead load that we want to count on when you're designing for which decking you'll use. They simply overlap beautifully from one to the next. The underside of the deck would look like that. Of course, you would paint it. That's the underside. I just made a shed out of this. And that's the structural, and it's huge spans. I'm talking 16 foot here. Snow loads, no problem. And the top is painted. The underside is not here. Maybe I'll get around to putting some rust protective paint on sooner or later. All right, this gives you your idea where I'm going with this. Oh, so you would just, like this, beam. Oh, you mentioned racks. How ironic is that? You mentioned Home Depot type racks. And how ironic is that? The structure is supported on racks of that nature. In the back side, there's just a support there. There's a support down the end. There's support here with the beam going across that supports the load. So it's just one beam going across there doing that. And it's doing the same thing back here. So it's kind of interesting that you mentioned that because here we are here. All right, I don't recommend you're supporting the outside edge like the one report stated because it changes the cantilever's behavior. If you're going to do that, support it. See if you can get an engineer out there where you are to locate the supports inbound. If you're going to do it, besides the way I'm recommending, that it keeps the cantilever action going on. Since the rebar is faced like this at the top, you put the supports here. You now have top rebar where you're creating the top rebar. You're going to need some bottom steel also, and the bottom steel is typically not out there in those decks. And around the midsection.